Yes! Oh, it is! It is! Another episode of Donno Daily here on 5 Reasons Live on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. So much to get into today. Welcome in to everyone aboard, watching us live, listening back to us. Donno Daily is proudly brought to you by BetUS.com, the official sports book here of my shows. BetUS has been serving satisfied clients for over 25 years. There's a reason they're known as America's favorite sports book. They have action guys across every sport you can possibly imagine. They can guarantee they've got your game. They offer the industry's biggest bonuses to keep their players betting longer. And the BetUS loyalty program is absolutely legendary. So guys, you want to take advantage with football season coming up, and there's plenty going on. I was betting baseball and NBA Summer League last night. Sign up with our code. When you sign up, use my code. Donno's got your hookup, 5RSN125. Sign up with our code, 5RSN125, and receive a 125% sign-up bonus. I made a deposit last week of $150. I got $187.50 of free play money right in my account, and I've had a blast with that. BetUS.com. We are also served by the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill, the freshest seafood like oysters, Maine lobster, and sushi. I love the buffalo shrimp. Make the Quarterdeck your spot to watch every UFC pay-per-view fight for zero cover charge. How good is that? The Quarterdeck. Come for the food, stay for the fun. I promised a busy, fun show, and we're going to deliver on that, guys. At 12:15, we're going to talk Miami Hurricanes with fall camp now in full swing. September 4th against Bama is going to be here before we know it. Jazz Santana from the Sixth Ring and 5 Reasons Sports is going to join us at 12:15. At 12:40, I cannot wait for this because I'm such a fan of this dude. And by some, miscalculation on my part, we've never had this guy on any of my shows, even though I'm such a big fan of his. Royal A. Shepard is going to join us to talk some Miami Heat at 12:40 p.m. today. We have plenty of other things to get into in the South Florida sports landscape. Before we dive in head first, let me introduce our co-host, our producer, the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Stanley. Sean, how you doing today, sir? I see, as always, you're in the closet with the Don Shula football.
That is where I am, Donno, sitting here in the closet, Donno Daily, with the football right above my head. On which arm is it? This one?
I always get that wrong, too. I always get that wrong, man. So I
have to go right, left, just to make sure it's where I'm going.
Yeah, I always like the one thing I know, if I ever get a really good comment that I like and I want to emphasize it, I know I can point down, when we flash it up on the screen.
Can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong, up and down. It's the lefts and the rights that get a little bit complicated. And by the way, you guys who are watching live, you want to make sure to take advantage of the live chat feature. If you're logged into your Google account, you can ask us questions. You can trash talk us. We can create some dialogue. You can react to anything. We love chatting with our listeners and our viewers live. And yeah, make sure, like you see it down there, you smash that like button and subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports on YouTube. So much great content comes out through this network. I want to get into the biggest story, at least on Dolphins Twitter, over the last 24 hours. Dolphin fans are tormenting and poking and prodding Joy Taylor of Fox Sports 1, our own Joy Taylor, South Florida's own Joy Taylor from the Herd with Colin Cowherd. They are absolutely going after Joy Taylor because of a Tua Tagovailoa double standard, okay? So first of all, if you guys out there, you keyboard jockeys, you keyboard warriors, if you're attacking this woman online, find a hobby. That's the first piece of advice I will give to you. Life is too short, in my opinion, to take anything said on the Herd with Colin Cowherd that seriously. Cowherd is a notorious hot take merchant. Cowherd is a notorious Miami hater and disrespecter. He's a Miami Heat hater. He's a Miami Dolphins unbeliever. I don't think he can care less at this point about my Miami Hurricanes. But what got Dolphins fans all up in arms about Joy from something that was said on the show yesterday was Joy saying that Joe Burrow, who's coming off knee surgery last year, number 1 overall pick from the 2020 draft, Burrow is coming off knee surgery, and he deserves patience coming off a serious knee injury because, in her words and Colin's words, a serious setback like that, it screws with your head. So he deserves patience. He deserves the benefit of the doubt. Now, Burrow, for those who are paying attention, had a very poor, very slow start to training camp with the Cincinnati Bengals. Although reports are saying, to be fair, over the last couple of days, he's been doing better and looking better. He looked significantly better yesterday, according to Bengals reporters. Now, almost everyone in the national media, including Joy, is making excuses for Burrow coming off the knee that they didn't make for Tua last year coming off a hip. There were times when I felt like I was standing on top of a mountain and I was literally the only person who remembered, hello, this guy just had hip surgery. He had rehab. You can't expect him to hit the ground running when he's literally learning how to walk again after that injury. And so all this to say on Joy, and then I'll give my thoughts on the situation. On Joy Taylor, this is not strictly a Joy Taylor problem when you talk about this narrative and this double standard, but Dolphins fans are making Joy the sacrificial lamb here because of who she is and where she comes from, right? That she worked in this market. So you thought, oh, this girl always has to have our back because she worked and lived in Miami. You know, you listened to her on 790 and 560 back in the day. And then, of course, she's the sister of Jason Taylor. So I think people put this sometimes unfair expectation in that because her brother is one of the greatest players in our franchise's history, she's got to be, I'll steal a phrase from our buddy Big O, she's got to be the blind ass Dolphin fan at all times and only spew positivity, okay? So she gets looked at differently for those reasons, I think. Now, do I get frustrated personally by seeing the media and hearing the media seemingly forget that Tua was coming off a hip last year and not forgetting about Burrow coming off a knee? Yes, I get frustrated by that, okay? I personally cannot explain, and I'm going to ask Sean about this in a minute, but I personally cannot explain why Tua attracts so much more criticism than others in similar spots. You know, perhaps it's the hype coming out of college. Perhaps it's the fact that he went to Alabama, won national titles. There are two things to keep in mind here that I want to remind every Dolphin fan of who's melting down, because I see these meltdowns happening. Some of these loser fans even wrote up like a mock lawsuit against Joy. It's like, again, find a hobby, find a job, okay? Two things to keep in mind here. Number one, criticism of Tua, fair or unfair, arrives based on the way he played over a stretch of 2.5 months of regular season football last year, okay? It's not as if comparing 2 weeks of Joe Burrow struggling in camp is the same as over 2 months of Tua as a starter last year. Now, with that musical chairs game between Tua and Fitzpatrick last year, people thought they weren't seeing progress in Tua. Why is Tua getting benched? You know, people like me and Sean and you guys watching and listening who actually follow the team day to day, we can find these reasons. I'm not even going to call them excuses. We can find these reasons to excuse Tua's performances last year. And that also includes old man Chan Gailey, the former offensive coordinator, who wasn't doing Tua any favors. But, you know, narratives like that, like the ones that we realize they get glossed over on the national stage. Number two, okay, don't be too quick, guys, to dunk on Joy, Colin, Mike Greenberg, Skip Bayless, Max Kellerman. Well, I could probably go for days naming all the Tua haters, but don't be too quick to dunk on the Tua doubters right now until Tua actually really proves something this season. Now, saving the receipts is great. I do it. I've got tweets saved. I've got things written down of blowhards in the national media who have completely written off Tua after his first season. I am saving the receipts, and I want nothing more than a day to arrive. October, November, December, playoff time. I want nothing more than a day to arrive when Tua has cemented his spot as an elite NFL quarterback. And then, and only then, we can show those receipts and rub it in everyone's faces. But guys, that day has not arrived yet. So don't blow your wads too early in flashing the receipts at the haters when we're talking about week 2 of training camp. The day to rub it in their faces has not arrived yet. Sean Stanley, what say you? Why do you think Tua Tagovailoa gets held to this ridiculously high, unfair standard that a lot of other rookie second-year guys don't get held to?
Well, one of the things is, as you alluded to, I think, is his college career, right? He was coming out. He was the man, no matter what. I mean, he had hip surgery, and everybody's still arguing that he was going to be the first pick. I think if Joe Burrows didn't have the season that he had at LSU that season, Tua might have been up there, you know, possibly they taken a chance on him. he was almost the golden child, right? At Alabama. He could do no wrong. I think also part of the hate goes to at least maybe what they see as quarterback speak or man speak. He's got all the right answers, right? You're trying to put dings in the armor because of how good of a man he is, or he says all the right things. He does all the right things. And you sit there and you got to find something. And that was the poor play last year, which became the point for all the Tua haters to jump on, because after that, what else is there?
And I'll also point out that Burrow was pretty good before he injured his knee last year. Yeah. Now he certainly had a lot less pressure on Cincinnati to go out there, sling it, put up numbers. Tua had a lot more pressure, and Tua, he did have a 6-9 season, or sorry, 6-3. 6-9 would not be very good, nor would it have been, something to brag about. He was 6-3 as a rookie starting quarterback. So record-wise, he was fine. I get it. Not all of the performances were stellar. There was some bad. He got benched twice last year. There was some good that people really forget about. I thought that in the Arizona game, when he led a comeback, he was excellent. I thought he was excellent in the Kansas City game. I mean, he was dueling. He was going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. And Sean, the crazy thing, you remember this, at the end of that game, the announcers and the pundits kept saying, they were comparing, when you saw Tua shaking Mahomes' hand after the game, are we looking at this generation's Peyton versus Tom? Like, are we looking at the next great quarterback rivalry? And then 2 weeks later, they're all shitting on Tua again. So it's like these narratives get cycled and rinsed and repeated so often. People
also,
forget
I think
what's going on.
Quarterbacks, right? It comes down to numbers, unfortunately. You don't look at that wins and losses, because if you did, you would think Tua had a good season last season. All you look at is all the numbers, right? His passing numbers, his how many times he was benched, everything, all the stuff that doesn't mean something, because honestly, at the end of the day, it comes down to wins and losses. And he's 6-3 and had the Dolphins, there for a playoff push. And what was Herbert doing? What was, Burrows got injured, but what were the other guys doing? Yeah, they had those numbers, but they were done going into week 13, 14.
I would love to hear what you guys think on the chat and on Twitter, why Tua gets held to a different standard than a lot of others. And also, if you saw, Joy wrote a big thread, like kind of explaining herself, because I think she does feel very hurt by how many Dolphins fans are, like jumping in her mentions and accusing her of being a hypocrite or a Dolphins hater or a bad Dolphins fan. So I think she does feel a little bit personally upset by that. Her explanation, though, it didn't really explain the double standard between Tua and Burrow. It just kind of explained her thinking on Tua, which is fine. I don't really know if she addressed the primary complaint that people have to it, but she did point out something, Sean, which, I think is fair. It's definitely fair comparing Tua against Burrow. I'm not positive if it's fair comparing Tua against Herbert, but when you talk about the expectations of the teams they play for, the market that they play in, she brought something up that in the case of Tua in Miami, his organization and his fan base are going to have less patience for him given the size of the market and the class of the organization. Sadly, my Dolphins have not won anything significant in way too long. I was not even born yet in 1973 when they won their most recent Super Bowl, but I was around for most of the Don Shula era and the excellence in winning record that brought. It was fantastic. Some of the best memories of my life. But I think she brings up a fair point that in a market like Miami and a team like the Dolphins, Tua is probably going to get less time to arrive than Burrow in Cincinnati, because the Cincinnati Bengals, they have been for most of my life a laughingstock organization in the National Football League. It's a much smaller market. There's a lot less pressure in theory, even though he was a number 1 overall draft pick. You could definitely say that Burrow is under less pressure than Tua Tagovailoa, and it's going to get a longer time to succeed there. Do you think that's true, though, with Justin Herbert? Because I don't know what to do with the LA Chargers, because LA in itself is a bigger market than Miami, but I don't necessarily think the Chargers are a bigger franchise than the Dolphins, because they're clearly the second team of Los Angeles. they had a lot of fans in San Diego. And a lot of those fans in San Diego are so mad that they moved the team. They're not even Chargers fans anymore. So I don't really know what to do with that. I mean, LA is one of the biggest markets in the country, bigger than Miami, but they're clearly the second team of that market. So when it comes to pressure, Sean, and also the Chargers were garbage when Herbert got there. So as long as he put up numbers, they were happy no matter what the win-loss record
numbers
was.
And are close and they stay about that 500 level. That's what the Chargers do, right? The quarterback puts up great numbers and they stay about 500 and might walk in, squeeze into a playoff spot. If not, that's okay. Expectations is what drives, I think, all of the criticism. And right now, I believe, the Dolphin, Twitter, Dolphin fans, everything else like that have high expectations because of what you're seeing on the field week in and week out.
I think Brooklyn Rob hit the nail on the head. He's usually right, except for the soccer team that he roots for. But he writes, people love to tear down Tua. Herbert and Burrow started for both their teams from day one. Herbert and Burrow did not have the same expectations as Tua. Even after the injury, he had all the hype. I think he's right about that because, we knew the Cincinnati Bengals were going to be garbage last year. People just wanted to see Burrow go out there and sling it. We knew that the Los Angeles Chargers, San Diego Chargers, whatever you want to call them, we knew they were going to be garbage last year. And also, there weren't expectations for Herbert. I see a lot of revisionist historians out there, a lot of revisionist history people saying, oh my God, the Dolphins, you got the wrong guy. Oh, if you had just gotten the guy that went right after you, we'd be fine. You should have drafted Herbert instead of Tua. So many of you clowns, 99% of you, and I know there are some exceptions to that because I do know a couple of people who actually wanted Herbert over Tua, but 99% of you are lying. 99% of you on draft night would have freaked out if Chris Greer had drafted Herbert over Tua. We were calling Herbert Tannehill 2.0. You all wanted to save for a couple of you. Oh, man. All right, so we're good to go now. We want to bring on our good pal. He was having some connection issues, but I think we have them sorted. Jazz Santana, one of our Miami Hurricanes experts here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. You see him on the 6th ring. Jazz, good afternoon to you, sir. Now, you are on probation after questionable connectivity last week, so we've got to do better than last week.
Story of my life, Donno. It's unbelievable, man. The Wi-Fi now went out in my job, so of course here I am doing it from my car again. But listen, man, probation or not, I got it. I'm here for you.
Absolutely. And so far, so good. So far, the connection is fine. I hope he doesn't have to find like a parking garage 5 levels deep like he did last week, which is odd because usually you want to escape the parking garage to get service. He had to seek the parking garage to find service. So first thing Canes-wise, I want to get into with you, Jazz, and we can have a little fun with this, or I don't know, people may not think this is so fun. But Sean, flash for me this Associated Press tweet, the 5 most, or USA Today, I should say, not Associated Press, USA Today, 5 most overrated teams. And right there, they don't have numbers next to it. So I don't know if this is intended to be in order or not, but Miami is on the list. Ole Miss is on the list. And I don't feel like people care about Ole Miss. So I'm not sure how they would be overrated. Notre Dame is on the list. Get that. Southern Cal is on the list. What have they done for you lately? And Texas, who should forever be on that list. So I 100% co-sign on Texas, Notre Dame, USC being on the list of 5 most overrated teams. I don't ever find myself even thinking about Mississippi, so I could care less if they're on there or not. But Jazz Santana, does Miami belong on this list? 5 most overrated teams. Should the U be featured?
This is a great list, let me tell you. Overrated? I mean, look, I'll never say they're overrated, but, we've seen it, right? Time and time again, they come in ranked a little higher than maybe they should be. That happens with Notre Dame all the time, and look at them. But at the end of the day, everybody will think that they're going to be in the playoffs anyways because everybody loves Notre Dame. But I don't know if it's a good list. I mean, I can see Texas. I'm with you on that one. And Southern Cal, they've got some good players coming back, and their quarterback Keenan Slovis. It's an interesting list. I don't know if they're overrated. I think that they're right where they should be. at number 16, right? With the new rankings coming out, at least the preseason rankings coming out,
Yeah.
number 16. They got De'Aaron King coming back. They've got, a lot of players. 19 of their 22 starters from last year are coming back, and I think those three are probably Rousseau, Phillips, and Roche. It feels like, but yeah, I mean, they're all coming back. So overrated? I don't think so. I think they're right where they should be.
Yeah, I agree on that. And it's like people are having two separate conversations about this. So I'm glad Jazz grounded us a little bit. That tweet is a reaction to the coaches poll that came out where, Miami are ranked number 16. USC, who are also on the list, are number 14. I'm trying to see where did Texas came in at number 19. Ole Miss right at number 25. Again, I couldn't care less about the Ole Miss Rebels. Are they even still called the Rebels, or have we canceled that yet? I'm not even sure.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Look, it's the Lane Kiffin effect, and they've got Matt Corral over there at quarterback, who's a pretty decent quarterback. So, and Lane Kiffin, he knows. Listen, he put up some points against Alabama last year, so I can see why they're in the top 25. I might have had them ranked a little higher than they were at 25, just because. They're going to compete in the ACC. I think that they might be the dark horse over there. So overrated at number 25? No, I don't think so either. But again, nobody cares about about Ole Miss. You're right.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, when people are reacting to this overrated thing, Jazz was helping me stay a little bit grounded because that list is concerning the top 25 that just dropped yesterday. But then people start having conversations about the programs as a whole, Jazz. And that wasn't the intention of this list that USA Today put out. But if we want to have that conversation, then yeah, Miami probably should be on the top 5 overrated list. If we're just talking about like pure hype of a program, I can see Miami being on there because, this is a double-edged sword that we're living off of our reputation a little bit. We're living off of Billy Corbin documentaries. We're living off of, one of the greatest 20-year stretches in college football from the early 80s through the early 2000s. And so, yeah, if you want to have an all-time conversation, I understand that. But then at the same time, Jazz, one of my takeaways there is at least people care about your program and they're aware of it, right? Like the fact that Miami, whether it's fair or unfair, gets put into a lot of these national conversations, even though they've only had a double-digit win season like once in the last almost 20 years. The fact that Miami keeps getting put in those conversations means people do care and have impressions and opinions on this program.
Yeah, they're relevant. The brand holds weight. It doesn't, and I like that. I like that people continuously hype us up and then put us down. I mean, we got to feed off of that energy eventually, right? But the truth is, like you said, Donno, I mean, every time that Miami's on one of these lists, it just continues to build their relevancy, right? And so I even had a fan recently on our Twitter page post a picture of someone driving in Texas with a Texas license plate, and their whole entire trunk on their truck was a U sticker. It had the ibis on the side, and so we're everywhere, man. So I get it. Awesome. I get why there's a lot of hype, and everybody hated the teams in the 90s and the 80s and even the early 2000s. Obviously, that was probably the best team in college football history ever. But I mean, yeah, it still holds weight. So I'm okay with being on that list. And yeah, if you're gonna put us from a program perspective with all the hype, sure, we definitely are a little bit overrated in that sense, but that's okay. I'll take it.
So with camp going on right now, something I'm always curious about are newcomers, right? Miami have some real interesting transfers, right? Including, I like Rambo a lot in the receiving core. And Miami obviously have some interesting freshmen. Like I think about James Williams, who is just going to be a monster, and he's going to impress a lot of people. Leonard Taylor, these are the sorts of defensive tackles we want Miami to bring in more consistently. Who do you think is the guy, Jazz, the newcomer, whether it be a transfer or a freshman? And you can give me one of each if you want, but the newcomer who's really going to turn heads, right? The guy who comes in and steals a lot of these headlines in fall camp and early season.
Well, you can see already, just based off of being at practice this weekend, you can see the way that Coach T-Rob and that whole entire secondary and defense is coaching James Williams. He's a special talent. I think that's the kid that we all talk about Tyreek Stevenson, who, by the way, has been all over the field. and is doing a great job. He really has cemented himself as, I think, cornerback number one, our first guy there. But James Williams, man, all over the field. I was actually talking to Gabby Arudio, who covers them for 24/7, and during practice on one specific play where James Williams came and made a play and deflected a ball and batted it down on the kind of on a coverage. And I go to Gabby. I go, Gabby, was he playing cornerback there? And he's like, no, he was playing safety. He backpedaled and then got all the way back on a comeback route and was able to come knock the ball down. So I'm like, this kid's unbelievable. 6'5", 225 pounds. He's doing that. Although I think at the end of the day, his position might be, as an outside linebacker, maybe even put his hand on the ground. But right now, he's doing everything to be on the field against Alabama. It's unbelievable the way he's playing on defense. I would probably say him on defense as a newcomer, as a whole. And then on the other side of the football, you gotta love what if you've been at practice, if anybody's been at practice, you gotta love what Jacoby George is doing. The freshman coming in, wide receiver, just catches everything. He's got hands for days. Kid doesn't drop a pass, and I know it's not pads and all that, but you could just see his route running, the way that he's able to create separation, which is the most important thing I think as a wide receiver right now, is being able to create that separation and then make a play with the ball in his hands. Jacoby George's got it, man. I'm so excited to see that kid play.
So does that mean we can see potentially less of a guy like Mark Pope, who was dropping everything last year? Like, I mean, I want guys on the field who can catch footballs, Jazz. The drops last year were obscene.
Well, Mark Pope wasn't even at practice yesterday. Manny Navarro reported it that he wasn't even on the field. I don't know what the reason was. Still trying to kind of get that information. But
Butterfingers.
He's not
That's
running
the
with the
official
ones.
absence.
That's probably what it is. He's on the he's on the list. But yeah, so he wasn't even at practice. I'm not sure what's going on with him. He's dropping on the depth chart, and you've lost a couple other guys like Jeremiah Payton as well, who's now no longer on the team. So some of those young guys have to step up either way. Brashard Smith, Ronald Brinson, those guys are playing really well as well. But Jacoby George is the one that's really stealing the show. That's a newcomer, right? Guys that are there. Keyshawn Smith is definitely cemented as wide receiver 3. Absolutely. That kid he's got the goods.
So I'm thinking about top ACC quarterbacks this year. I'm going to ask you a hypothetical, Jazz, and try and remove your Hurricanes bias if you can. You can have one of these 3 quarterbacks to start one game for you. Let's assume they're all perfectly healthy, right? So we don't have to start putting injuries in the mix. But one quarterback to quarterback Miami for one game. Would you take DJ Uiagalelei? Would you take Sam Howell? Or would you take De'Aaron King?
Now, we're not talking about offensive lines or weapons or anything, right? Just purely quarterback. Wow, that's a tough question. But if I needed one game, people are going to hate me for this. Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell would be the guy that I would take. Yeah, I love DJ Uiagalelei based off of pure talent, but he just hasn't done it enough yet. De'Aaron King's coming off an injury. So if we're talking right now, the way things are, Sam Howell,
But I said, don't even think about injuries, though. Don't think about injuries. Let's assume they're all at their best. We're not talking about rehab.
Wow. Taking off my UM blinders. I'll still go Sam Howell.
Fair enough. I heard
I got to cause a little controversy, right?
Yeah, why not? You see, I think I might go DJ Uiagalelei, but I think, you know what? I think Tua has just made me, like, when a lot of people are biased against Tua, I now am obsessed with Hawaiian quarterbacks. So it's like I'm looking for the next flying Hawaiian. So I don't know what it is, man. I love pineapple. I love the beach. So maybe that's what's going on here. I heard a great point brought up, and I want to give credit where credit was due. I think it was Roman on the Orange Bowl Boys pod that brought this up, about starting the season against Alabama. And, we know, Jazz, reasonable Hurricanes fans are not really expecting a victory there. The questions are, how competitive are you going to be and all that stuff. And we talked about this, you and I, a little bit last week. But do you have any concern when it comes to the coaching and the mental makeup of these players, that if things do go really poorly in Atlanta against the Crimson Tide, that Miami could allow Alabama to beat them multiple times. You know, we always used to say that about playing Florida State, you know, during the Jimbo Fisher era, when there were a handful of years when we just could not beat Florida State. We'd start out well in some games, and then Dalvin Cook would rip our hearts out. And then, you know, a one loss to Florida State would turn into a 2, 3, 4-game losing streak, 4 out of 5 lost. Do you have any concern about Miami letting Alabama beat them multiple times?
No. And I'm so confident in that. I just feel like they have the right mix of, you know, players coming in and guys that have been there. I think De'Aaron King is going to be a huge reason why that quote unquote hangover doesn't happen. I love his leadership. I love what he brings to this football team as a whole. I think on the other side of the football, you've got some guys that have been there for a while now. Even Al Blades, who was hurt, is coming back. Another kid like Tyreek Stevenson, who's coming from playing in the SEC, where if you lose a game, the next game, typically a Georgia team or something like that comes back and beats the brakes off whoever they play. So I think when you add players like that, and then you add the coaching staff that we do have in place now, I think the hangover. I just don't see it happening this time. But they do have to keep it close. Yeah, I wouldn't say close, but they have to be competitive.
By the way, what was your reaction to the announcement? It was either Monday or early Tuesday. I think it was on Monday, about De'Aaron King's latest NIL deal, where he's now endorsing the Florida Panthers. I think it's really cool. I mean, I'm a hockey fan. I love the Panthers. I obviously love the Canes. I think this is pretty neat, and kudos to the Panthers, you know, for finding a way to throw Miami a bone and help De'Aaron King out. So I'm hoping now, Jazz, more Miami Hurricanes fans become Panthers fans because of De'Aaron King. But how did you react when you saw that deal?
I thought it was interesting. I'd love to, you know, to kind of see how they incorporate him into, you know, maybe game day or whatever it is that they do. I think it'll be interesting. I love it because I think that Florida Panthers have kind of shown that they're starting to become a really competitive team in the NHL. And, you know, down here, it's hard to get fans to love hockey. I understand why, but at the same time, this is a really good team, man. So now when you tie in a local team like the Miami Hurricanes and De'Aaron King, I think that it can only be a great thing. I'm excited to see how they do it.
Yeah, and I know that Panthers fans eat that stuff up too, because I can remember I think it was a playoff game when Brian Flores was there, and he was like going crazy. And dude, the crowd went nuts when they put him on the Jumbotron. I've seen the same thing happen with Manny Diaz.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen the way that people react to Diaz, right, and to Flo being there. So I'm looking forward to, like, I have this image of De'Aaron King like eating popcorn in a Panthers jersey. Suddenly he goes on the Jumbotron and people go crazy. So I'm looking forward to that next season.
I think it's going to be, he's the face of the Miami Hurricanes, right? It's De'Aaron King.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that for sure.
Really good stuff here as always. You want to make sure you guys follow. Is it the Twitter handle? Is it Jazz Santana? I want to make sure I give it out properly.
It is. It's at Jazz Santana. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. You got it.
At Jazz Santana on Twitter, and check him out all over the 5 Reasons Sports Network. When's the next 6-ring Canes? When can people watch you guys next?
Today's Wednesday, right? We're doing one tonight.
Yes.
So
Awesome.
we'll be on tonight around 8 p.m. So yeah, definitely check us out on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel there.
Fantastic. Good stuff there by Jazz Santana. We'll talk to you again soon, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the show tonight.
You got it. Thanks, Donno. Appreciate it.
Awesome stuff there by Jazz. By the way, I'm also open to endorse the Florida Panthers. You want to get me on that Jumbotron right next to De'Aaron King? That sounds like a good time, man. That sounds like a really good time. Hey, in about 6 minutes, we're going to talk Miami Heat with Royal A. Shepherd. Now, I made a promise, and I was talking to my buddy Kai Chen Chisholm about this, because when Kai and I, we were both on Onside Radio. I was hosting afternoons. He was hosting middays. And Kai used to bring on Royal every Wednesday, and he called the segment Royal Wednesday. And for us, we just happened to, not really regarding what day of the week it was, we happened to book Royal A. Shepherd, who we love, on a Wednesday. And so I promised Kai Chen Chisholm, I'm not trying to start any beef here. Okay, I'm not trying to steal his gimmick. I'm not trying to hone in on the Royal Wednesday thing. So we happen to be having Royal on a Wednesday today. But Kai, I don't want to see any lawsuits. All right. I don't want to see any lawyers getting involved. We are not trying to infringe upon the Royal Wednesday gimmick. I can confidently say that. By the way, I thought Jazz handled it pretty well, when talking about Miami, whether or not they should appear on a list of top 5 most overrated teams. I think number 16 in the country for them is just right, man. I mean, the only 2 teams in the ACC that deserve to be ranked higher than Miami. Clemson, of course, they're the number 2 team in the country. UNC, they rank in at number 9, Miami at number 16. There's nobody in the ACC ranked ahead of Miami outside of those 2, which makes sense. The Florida Gators are ranked 5 spots ahead of Miami. With the amount of talent Miami has coming back, I'm actually excited to see how the defense looks with Manny Diaz back at defensive coordinator, even though he's got a lot of balls to juggle, so to speak, being the head coach and the DC. I'm still bullish on the defense because I think Blake Baker was a problem, and I think there's a lot of things that Miami can fix with Manny Diaz calling defensive plays again. And you can't question the talent Miami has coming back and the talent they have coming in, both, a true freshman like James Williams, who I think can contribute immediately, Leonard Taylor, who I think can contribute immediately, a couple of transfer players who I think can really hit the ground running. And Miami has done well with the transfer portal for the last few years. So, no, I don't think number 16 is a bad spot or an unfair spot or an overrated spot to put Miami in. And, Sean, I'll go back to what I said with Jazz. If you want to do, overrated programs just overall, then, yeah, maybe you can throw Miami into that mix because what has Miami really done in the past 20 years? But if you're talking about coaches poll rankings heading into this season, I don't think number 16 is overrated.
No, I don't think where they're at now is overrated. I honestly thought they'd be higher just so they could boost up the game against Alabama, right? Number 1 Alabama versus number 10 Miami.
You know what? Wait for the Associated Press because this was the coaches poll. Yeah. The coaches are less biased, right? If the Associated Press is like, hey, we've got number 3 Miami taking on number 1 Alabama. Here we go.
Kick off the season right. No, but they are. I mean, again, they've got a lot coming back. They did lose some of their big, defensive linemen and things like that. But again, you've seen something that you haven't seen out of Canes teams is they're starting to develop depth. And that's the one thing I think that has hurt the Canes in a lot now. And I think with this NIL thing, I think you're going to start seeing guys stick around longer because they're not going to have to go to the NFL to make money. You're seeing Derek King now probably making more money playing college football than he would make if he went to the NFL.
I just can't wait for that video game to come back. Dude, I whether you are an optimist or a pessimist, you can say I either invested or wasted so many hours of my life playing EA Sports NCAA football when that game was cracking, right? Basically my high school years from 2001, 2002-ish, all the way through adulthood. I think 2015 or 2016 was the last year that they made that game. I was going dynasty mode. I was going 15, 20 years deep in those dynasties. I wasn't simulating games. I was playing all the games. I mean, my God, the hours of my life that I invested playing NCAA football. I cannot wait for that game to come back, my friends. As promised, we have some Heat talk coming up. And honestly, I am righting a wrong today because I have not to this point, we're correcting this wrong right now. I had not to this point brought Royal A. Shepherd on any of my shows, but I am a huge fan of his work here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And I thought, who better to break down some Heat basketball with today than Royal? Now, Royal A. Shepherd, I did make a promise to our mutual friend, Kai Chen Chisholm, that I will not call this segment Royal Wednesday, even though it happens to be Royal on a Wednesday. I do not believe in gimmick infringement. So this is strictly Royal A. Shepherd on Wednesday. Royal, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm having a problem with you calling it a gimmick. It was more like a staple of the Onside Radio Network with Royal Wednesdays. So that's the only gripe. But you see, I wore a tie today for you, Donno. This is a big event for me. So I wanted to come on and I wanted to represent myself well on this show.
Oh, dude. Well, you're already hitting it out of the park, and I love the Heat flag in the background. He is representing, and you guys want to make sure you can follow him, of course, on Twitter. Those watching, you can see the handle. Those listening, very simple, at Royal A. Shepherd. Royal, first and foremost, man, I'm sad to see Goran Dragic go, but to me, Kyle Lowry is an upgrade in basically every area on the court right now, even though they are the same age, which is funny, but I do think Lowry is an upgrade. How do you envision the Heat now improving with Lowry being the go-to point guard next season? How much better do you think that's going to make the players around him?
So I think it substantially raises our floor as a defensive team off the bat. Kyle Lowry may not be the stud defensively that he once was in his prime, but still, even at his diminished state now, he's better than anything that we had to offer on the roster last year. So I think that he instantly upgrades the team on defense. And offensively, he's more of a true point guard than Goran ever was in terms of being able to set people up, being able to hit Bam on those short rolls, on the lobs, going to the rim. He's able to help Jimmy play off the ball. And one of I wouldn't say this is a bad take, but it's more of a pivot for me. I think Kyle Lowry is going to increasingly help Tyler Hero.
Okay.
Because I have not been an admitted Tyler Hero fan.
Same here. We can relate on that. I've tried to trade the guy 15 times.
I've tried to trade him 16, Donno. But I'm not a big Tyler Hero guy, but I do believe that having a genuine point guard next to him is going to allow him to play more freely off the ball, get him coming into the game thinking score, which is what his primary job should be. And I think that he's going to flourish in a role like that coming off the bench. So I think the team becomes substantially better defensively, and it just gives us more things that we can do offensively with a genuine point guard on the roster.
What do you think about the moves made in the power rotation? Because the Heat did get older there, right? I mean, they bring in guys in their early 30s like PJ Tucker, who I still like a lot, but his best basketball is probably behind him, Markieff Morris. So how do you expect that power rotation to look next year? And then when we're talking about younger guys, my favorite player on the team now, I think I have this weird Omer Yurtseven agenda. I guess I love Turkey now for some reason. So how could you see him fitting into the power rotation?
So in terms of the guys that we brought in, Markieff and PJ, I think they give us more balance at the position than we had before. Whereas we had, a combination of both in Trevor Ariza, where he gave us a little offense and a solid amount of defense. I think PJ is better defensively and Markieff is better offensively. So it gives us more options in terms of it gives us flexibility in the position in terms of what we can do coming from that spot. In terms of GOAT 7, that man is a future Hall of Famer. Okay. Yes. He's the 7-foot Luka Doncic. And I want to put people out here and let them know that I said it first. But I think his role is going to be small. I don't think he has very much of a chance to play a lot this year. I think he's going to kind of be like Duncan Robinson was in his first season coming up in the big leagues, where he's going to play. Injuries are going to determine when he's not going to play. But I think with Bam, with PJ being able to play up, with Markieff, with Detman on the roster, he's just going to fall behind all of those guys in terms of the power rotation. But I do like the idea of giving him a two-year contract in which they can start developing him as a potential person who can play next to Bam in certain situations. I love his skill set. I love everything about it. He seems to be everything that we're asking for in terms of a big man, a guy who can rebound, a guy who can space the floor with his shooting, and a guy who just, he has some facsimile of an offensive game. Now, he's dominated Summer League, but I don't know how he'll look against, regular NBA competition. But I'm hopeful, man, because from what I saw, that's the making of a star, Donald.
Do you think at any point within the next few years, Heat fans are going to say, wow, I really regret giving up Precious Achiuwa? Like, what do you think his upside is? Do you think he's going to end up balling, or is it just going to be one of those things where, Heat fans will never look back with that one?
I don't think we're going to look back from it. I do believe Precious has loads of talent. I do believe he's going to become a very solid player in this league. But I think if we're going to make any steps or any strides towards becoming the championship team that Heat fans all hope that we can become, then this is kind of like the first step in that progression. They wanted Precious. We wanted Lowry. So if you don't feel a trade, then that means that it probably was one-sided. And I got that from Clutch, Adam Barai. But this is a trade that we kind of felt. If we felt a lot with losing Goran, but we're going to feel it a little bit with losing Precious, but not as much as we're going to benefit from having somebody like Kyle Lowry on our roster.
And, I love Goran, seeing him. And even though I don't really speak Slovenian very well, we all got the translation of him saying he has higher aspirations, than Toronto. And he was doing that interview in Slovenian. And even though he had been traded, he was wearing the Heat Culture t-shirt. Just, I love Goran so much. Do you think, because I know Ethan feels this way, do you think, Royal, that Goran is going to end up back in a Miami Heat uniform at some point before he retires?
That's tough. That depends on how much he loves playing with Luka Doncic, because I'm pretty sure that's
where he's going. Yeah,
right. I'm pretty sure that those comments are going to help him find his way out of Toronto, whether that be on a buyout or a trade at the trade deadline. But I think that Dallas is an inevitability with Goran, and playing with his fellow countrymen. Like, if he loves that, then I think he retires there. But if that doesn't work out for him as well, his number's already going up in the rafters, and I'm sure Heat fans would love to see him come back. So I think there is a small chance that he will come back. But like I said, I think that's contingent all on how much he loves playing with Luka, because he might end his career in Dallas.
And you're right. It's got to be Dallas for him, because they're basically becoming these Slovenia Mavericks. Didn't they just have the press conference for Luka's extension in Slovenia? So it's like, man. I mean, they might be playing some games there next year for all I know. It's like they're basically the Slovenia Mavs.
If you think about it, like, Dallas has always kind of been like a melting pot of international players coming there. With Dirk, they had Rafe LaFrentz at one point. You had what's the little guy named JJ Barea?
Yeah.
You had a litany of people who just come over there. Even now with Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic on the same roster, they seem to have this love affair with European players. And so I think it's a perfect fit. Like, their culture seems to fit what they want to do over there. And I think they're going to welcome Goran with open arms. And he's going to be happy there, because they're going to, like I said, they're going to welcome him, and he's going to get a chance to play with one of the top tier talents in the league, in Luka, who's also Slovenian. So that's only a double benefit for him.
So, a bit of news that made big shockwaves. I think it was like Friday or Saturday of last week, and it seems like it's quieted down a bit, but I guess there is an ongoing investigation, not only into the Heat, but in the Chicago Bulls, for tampering, or as Ira Winderman, I saw him refer to it as gun jumping, which is kind of, so basically you're saying if they just waited a few hours to announce the deal, then that makes it okay. But do you expect anything significant to come out of this Kyle Lowry investigation? Hell, maybe we've not seen the last of Goran Dragic in a Heat uniform within the next year.
Okay, so Donno, you were on the call with us the other day. This is one of my customary questions whenever I go on the show. Am I allowed to curse on this program? Or
feel free. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you very much, Donno. That makes me so great. Fuck no, nothing's going to come of this, Alex Donno. There's nothing that's going to come of this. We're going to still have Kyle Lowry. I think it's just kind of like maybe a fine, maybe losing a draft pick that Pat Riley doesn't care about anyway. But nothing major. I don't think they're going to rescind the trade or anything like that. But the issue is, all teams do this. I'm pretty sure you've seen the I guess it's a meme or whatever it is, that LeBron James was recruiting Russell Westbrook.
Thank you.
Weeks before, and it was open. So I guess the league picks and chooses who they're gonna fine or define as tampering or whatever it is. But I don't think Heat fans should be worried about any potential ramifications of this coming.
Yeah, and with the LeBron thing, I know a lot of people will say, oh, but look, it's a player. Players are allowed to talk. But he owns at least a stake of his agency, Royal. Like, he owns a stake in Clutch Sports. Yeah. And by the way, just so I can reiterate this, because I do have a reputation that I think is a little bit unfair of being a LeBron hater. I mean, don't blame me that his movie only has 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. Don't blame me that the guy has to chase rings to win rings. I don't know how that becomes my fault. But in this sense, I'm not even saying LeBron and the Lakers should get in trouble for tampering. I'm just saying the Heat shouldn't. To me, the double standard should err on the side of who gives a fuck, right? Like, so the double standard to me is that instead of, like you said, picking and choosing who we investigate for tampering, why can't we just understand that tampering is inevitable? So instead of cherry picking certain teams and making an advantage of some, or making an example of some, I should say, and not others, why don't we just understand this happens around the league and there's nothing we can do to stop it?
And I think the double standard extends just beyond the teams for LeBron James. When you think about how he didn't even have to deal with health. Listen, I'm sorry, but
it's a great comment by Ricky.
The double standard extends beyond just the court, like the health and safety protocols that LeBron James seemingly just kind of disappeared for him, where he went through health and safety protocols with the COVID and still was allowed to play, and Chris Paul had to sit out. So those are the things that you deal with. And to your clutch point, I think it's ignorant for people to say that LeBron James has no involvement in this whatsoever. I think I heard Ethan say it, but Rich Paul is with LeBron James all the time.
Yeah.
So there's no way that he has no idea what's going on with clutch, how all the clutch players seemingly always end up on LeBron James's teams with team-friendly deals. Like, there's no way that this is happening without LeBron James's knowledge. And so the league just kind of they just choose to ignore what LeBron James does and penalize the teams that they don't, like the Miami Heat.
By the way, we're getting rave reviews for Royals wardrobe. Ricky J. Mark, who we love as well. We got to get Ricky on the show too, Sean and Mandy. We got to make that happen. He says, I'm feeling that classy tie, King. Makes me want to step my own game up out here in these streets. You know, I get like that as well. Like I tried to actually coordinate my outfit today, Royal. Like I've got the gray hat with the gray trim on the shirt, because normally I pick my clothes the same way Stevie Wonder does. Like I just sort of no look, just grab whatever's there. Color combos don't matter. So I'm trying to step my game up, and then I see Royal come in, and he's actually wearing a necktie. I'm going to be in like a 3-piece suit tomorrow. I'm going to keep escalating this.
Well, let's not forget the rest of the wardrobe. I'm wearing my customary hat, a necktie, a Bam Adebayo t-shirt, and sweatpants underneath here with gym slides. So there's like no coordination going on beyond the tie.
Oh, and I'm being told by Welch that since I am a sex icon, it doesn't matter what I wear. Just to bring you guys behind the curtain, like, okay, the shot that we have here, it's pretty much the same every day. Some days I don't wear pants. Like, why? Like, what's, and I'm sure Adam Schefter does the same thing. When Adam Schefter is via satellite on ESPN, he's only wearing like the shirt and the suit jacket from the waist up. Why do I need to bother to wear pants every day? I am wearing athletic shorts today, but some days I'm just wearing boxer shorts, bros.
Yeah, Donno, I can't tell you the number of Clutch Corner and post-game episodes that I've done without pants. Like, it's 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm sitting here after a Heat game. Like, I've already eaten dinner and everything. I'm sitting at the computer just free balling it. And it's just, nobody can tell because the camera only comes up chest high. So
now I don't know if there's a backstory to this. I do know, Roy, I remember hearing you say that you're a Packers fan, but I don't know why is Booby, great name, by the way, asking you if you are a Dolphins fan yet. Is there a backstory to that?
So Booby Johnson is a friend of mine from high school. And the backstory is that one of the conditions of my marriage was that I become a Dolphins fan. And so I was like, the only way that I'll become a Dolphins fan is either A, Aaron Rodgers retires, or he's no longer playing for the Green Bay Packers. So this is my last dance, if you will, with the Green Bay Packers, because Aaron Rodgers will inevitably be traded or sent to another team next year. And so as soon as he's no longer wearing a Green Bay Packers jersey, then I'm going to be a full-fledged Miami Dolphins fan. I've started my conversion. I started it 2 years ago, where I started watching Dolphins games, becoming acclimated with the roster. I'm from South Florida, so I know the history, but it's just kind of getting myself used to rooting for the new guys. And Tua was a good step for me in that direction. So.
And I do want to ask you one more thing on the way out. When you bring up the Packers and Rodgers, looking like just one more year, do you have a prediction on where he ends up? Because I've seen like the most recent team there's some noise behind are the Saints. Where do you expect Rodgers to be playing in 2022?
San Francisco.
Okay. It's the hometown team essentially for him.
The hometown thing, I think they kind of like struck out on the Tom Brady thing, getting him to come over there. And I don't think they're going to miss their opportunity again at a generational quarterback. And they're going to dangle Trey Lance to Green Bay just to get him over there. And I think it's going to work. So I think he ends up in San Francisco and kind of gives them an offense that matches that amazing defense that they are putting out on the field.
Well, really good stuff on all counts here from Royal A. Shepherd. You want to make sure you follow him on Twitter at exactly that. That's the handle, at Royal A. Shepherd. For those of you who are just listening to this, you want to go back and watch it on YouTube because he is dressed to the nines today And we appreciate that, Royal. Have a great one. By the way, when can we see you again streaming on 5 Reasons? Anything you want to promote?
So we're actually doing an episode of the Clutch Corner tomorrow at 8:00. Going to talk more free agency stuff, trying to talk about how the Heat can further fill out the roster, current moves, future moves, transactions. That's what the people want to see from us, so that's what we're going to talk about.
That is the name of the game. Thank you so much, Royal. Have a great rest of your day.
No problem. You do the same, Donno.
Awesome. Good stuff there. You know, I had a completely unrelated to anything we've talked about thought, because I was watching this movie last night before I went to bed, and I've seen it literally, I would conservatively estimate close to 5 times, and I'm a big fan of it. So consider this our Wednesday wisdom for today, or a random thought. And I don't know, Sean Stanley, if you've seen this movie or you have an opinion on it, but I will make a declaration today, because I don't think people give this movie enough respect. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood might be the most underrated film of this century. I'm not saying everybody hates it. A lot of people, though, that I've spoken to over the last couple of years since it came out, either flat out don't like it. They thought it was boring. I hear a lot of people, you know, they do their rankings of Quentin Tarantino films, and I love Quentin Tarantino. I don't think I've hated any of his movies. Like Hateful Eight is probably my least favorite. I can still watch it. I think Jackie Brown is incredibly underrated. Like I can watch all of his films happily. I love Tarantino, but I hear a lot of people, like, they'll do their Tarantino power rankings and they'll have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood like dead last, or like next to last. Like, no joke, Sean, I am obsessed with this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because there's just something about the rewatchability factor of it. Like, you notice these little details and foreshadowings, and you start to appreciate how, like, the soundtrack brings everything together. Pitt and DiCaprio give a couple of incredible performances, as you would expect, because they're two of the best actors of the generation. I'm a big history buff, like pop culture history. So getting, you know, kind of their look at the Manson family was really interesting to me as a guy. I wasn't around when that was going on, but I've studied it, you know? So I don't know, man. Like I've watched that movie probably now 5 times, and I can watch it happily probably 50 more times. Am I off on this?
I am the least probably person to ask that question to, because there's only 2 types of things. Well, 3 if you throw in kids movies. It is comedies and documentaries. That's all I really watch. I don't watch anything else. Wow. And wrestling. That's it.
Yeah, wrestling.
That is in sports. That's my life. That's it.
Can I give you some homework maybe over the weekend? Like, watch the movie. It's got to be available on some streaming service somewhere.
I can tell you now, I was a D- student. Okay. You can give me the homework. I don't know what I'm going to do it.
So your problem wasn't that you didn't do the homework well, you just didn't do it.
that is the problem.
See, I disagree with the first part anyway of what Stephen D is writing there from Miami Sports Music. That I do like I love Django. It's fine. It's not Django is not the best Tarantino movie though. I think actually Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is, as I just described to you, but outside of that, Inglourious Bastards and Pulp Fiction are right up there for me. I think Pulp Fiction, for as great as it is, might be a little bit even overrated, because it's like all anybody talks about with Tarantino sometimes, but to me, it's right up there. But he can say, he says great movie, but not even top 5 of Tarantino's movies. I think I disagree with that. I've got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Then I'll go Inglourious Bastards number 2. Then I'll go Pulp Fiction number 3. Then, I'd probably go number 4, Reservoir Dogs. And I'm doing this off the top of my head. I don't have the full list in front of me. So if I leave anything out, I'm going to feel like an idiot. I'd probably go, so Reservoir Dogs 4. Then I'd probably I might go Django 5. So Steven doesn't drive down here and kill me. Kill Bill Volume 1, probably 6. 2, I didn't like as much. Or do we make that a whole movie? Okay, if we make it a whole movie, I'll go Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2 as number 6. Then I'd probably go, what am I missing here? Maybe Jackie Brown 7, which I think is very underrated. I don't even mind Death Proof, but even like Tarantino doesn't consider that like one of his 9 films at this point, I guess, because it was like a shorter part of a double feature. So maybe I leave that off. Hateful Eight. And then I think there's one more film that I'm forgetting. I'm sure somebody will help me with that in the comments, because I think out of 9, I think I listed 8 there. But that'll do it for the show today. Huge thank you. Royal A. Shepherd was awesome. Jazz Santana was awesome. And I know Jazz, I didn't have a chance to answer him yet, but he was asking me via text because he's very worried about his connection, because he had kind of a crappy connection last week. And he was asking me how it went. And I will tell him, Jazz, if you're watching, the connection was a lot better today. So
Still
whatever.
not good enough.
Well, no, it could be better, because there were a couple times when like his face was like a little frozen. It was a little jumpy, but no, I mean, compared to last week, I think it was considerably better. By the way, Marla just sent me this note, a quote from me. I'll go with Jackie Brown at 7, which I think is very underrated. So I don't know if, like, I guess ranking it's 7 out of 9, but then saying it's underrated. I don't know, bros. What can I say? I like all of Tarantino's movies. I don't think there was a bad movie in the mix there, man. I really don't. Oh, man. So huge thanks again to Jazz, to Royal A. Shepherd, to Sean Stanley behind the scenes. Manny Chang took the day off. He's going to be back with us, I think, tomorrow. And guys, make sure you check out and support our sponsors. I cannot even describe to you how much fun I am having literally every single day placing action and wagers on betus.com. Betus.com, they are the official sports book of Donno Daily. They are literally my sports book of choice. It's why they are our sponsor. That's not a coincidence. I came to them, okay? Betus.com, that is my choice sports book, because they have action on literally anything, guys. Any sport you can think of. If there's a game happening somewhere in the world, they've got odds on it. They've got odds on pop culture events and world events. It's unbelievable, the stuff that you can find at betus.com. They have award-winning customer service. You get assigned your own customer service agent. So if you have any questions about the betting process, any confusions you have, you can reach out to a personal customer service agent. My agent is Carla, and she is awesome. They really give you the VIP treatment at betus.com. It's really easy to sign up. And I'm going to give you guys a hookup. If you sign up at betus.com today, and you want to get that done, guys, because we have NFL football coming up. You might even want to bet on preseason. Believe it or not, there is value in some preseason lines you can find there. Log on, betus.com, create your account, and when you make your deposit, type in our code. You can see it there at the bottom of the screen, 5RSN125. Type in 5RSN125, and you get a 125% sign-up bonus. My last deposit, as an example, $150 I deposited last week, $187.50 of free play money magically appeared in my account, and I'm still playing with the free play money. It is so much fun. BetUS.com. Use our code 5RSN125. And guys, it's lunchtime. Stomach is rumbling. If you are anywhere near a Quarter Deck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill location, you want to get down there and enjoy some of that delicious seafood. It's so fresh. The sushi is amazing. I love the buffalo shrimp at the Quarter Deck. It is so good. The cocktails will cure your ails. The beer is always cold. And guys, make sure you mark this down. You want to go to the Quarter Deck every time there's a UFC pay-per-view fight and you want to watch it, but you don't want to pay $70 to order that fight at home. Head on down to the Quarter Deck, because they have every UFC pay-per-view fight with zero cover charge. You pay nothing at the door. It is so great, and you'll make new friends there. I always have a great time watching the UFC pay-per-views at the Quarter Deck while I enjoy the delicious food. So if you want to peep their menu and find the location nearest to you, go onto their website, quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarter Deck, come for the food, stay for the fun. All right, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, 12 noon here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel, 5reasonsports.com. For Sean Stanley, I am Donno. We'll talk to you guys next time on another episode of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ciao.